Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining, everyone. My name is Zach Davey. I'm one of the admissions officers at RISD. I'm the regional rep for international students. And yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I'll be part hosting, part answering questions behind the scenes, talking about the transfer applications from the admissions standpoint. And I'm happy to present it to happy to share our presenters today. I'll pass it to you, Clement, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Zach. Thanks, Marin. I'm Clement Valla. I'm the department head of computation technology and culture, which sort of is the overarching department that currently houses two BFA programs. And I'll be presenting on the art and computation BFA program, along with Sean, who will be presenting on the sound BFA program. And I'll let Sean introduce himself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sean Greenlee. I'm a professor here at RISD, also the department head for the Digital Plus Media department. And I've been the faculty lead for the sound curriculum over a period of years, now leading into the new major.
Excellent. And I just want to say hello to everybody. Thank you all for being here. My name is Maren Brennan. We may have, I'm sure, emailed and talked on other webinars before. I will be kind of, just driving the presentation in terms of moving slides forward, but I'm also our office's transfer specialist. So, if you have any questions about transferring, I'm here to answer them. This presentation, as you'll see, is mostly, of course, about our two new majors. So certainly take this opportunity to ask our faculty those questions you have. But without further ado, and also just to remind you to enter any questions you have in the Q&A chat box instead of the main chat box so we don't lose track. That would be great. And I will go ahead and share my screen real quick and get the presentation going. All right, does it look okay on everyone's end?
Looks great.
All right.
Awesome. So yeah, I'll pass it back to you, Clement, if you want to get us started with the R and computation section. Oh, I think you're muted right now.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess I can just cover this. This is what we're going to be covering in general during this presentation. So, again, the kind of public facing programs, the BFA programs that you're applying to are called Art and Computation and Sound. They currently try and share some resources, but really you're applying to these independent programs that have their own curricula. The faculty do tend to work together. And that's under the umbrella of CTC, Computation Technology and Culture, which is the kind of departmental overview. So depending on who you're talking to at RISD, you might hear CTC, you might hear Art and Computation, you might hear Sound. I'm just trying to clarify those sort of different entities. The CTC department also has concentration, which is RISD's equivalent of a minor, which we won't go too much into today. You have to be in a major to kind of participate in the concentration process. And the other exciting thing with these two new programs, RISD's first new programs in about 30 undergraduate programs in about 30 years. So that's pretty exciting. But they are housed in the Division of Foundation Studies. Sorry, I'm being asked to update software right now, which is always the perfect time for that. They're housed in the Division of Experimental and Foundation Studies, which is the first year programs at RISD. And part of the reason for that is just because of the interdisciplinary nature of these programs and the faculty who teach in these programs. There's a lot of overlap with faculty teaching in experimental and foundation studies. And that's the division that the programs grew out of. So it's a unique home for both of the programs, which is really exciting. Maybe next slide. So currently both programs are structured with a 6-semester core studio requirement. So Sean, I might bring you in here if you want to say anything about that. But currently, the core studio is kind of like the critique studio, in which you're supposed to kind of bring in all the work that you've been doing, and it covers kind of interdisciplinary concepts. It really focuses on critique. And I think the sort of communal language was this idea of computation. And the core studios are also there to get you from a place where you're sort of working on an assignment basis in the sophomore year to a place where you're working on large scale independent projects and essentially preparing for a degree project. So a lot of critique, a lot of help with expanding or structuring self-direction as you progress, and a lot of help with sort of scaling up projects, and a lot of help just sort of discussing and finding your interests within art and computation or sound. Sean, did you want to add anything or?
Oh, that's great. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. So next slide. Okay, so focusing in on art and computation, if we can move on to the next slide. So art and computation is not about bringing a CS program to RISD. At RISD, we're quite lucky in that our association with Brown University gives us access to a world-class CS program next door, actually. So this isn't about taking all these computation fundamental classes in sequence and coming out with a CS major. That's not really what RISD does. It's about bringing art and poetics to computers. That's much more what we focus on. So you do take some intro courses in coding. The program has inbuilt flexibility so that if you wanted to do some pretty in-depth CS, you can take courses at Brown, and of course we do support it, but it's much more about thinking of how computation is a creative material like paint or clay. And so it's thinking both materially, conceptually, thinking about the context for these things, the art and design context, the histories. And it means treating code, algorithms, and computational systems as creative materials with their own affordances and constraints. And so it fits in within RISD's ecosystem because RISD's, has 150 years of this material-based making approach, and we kind of try and apply that to computation in really interesting ways. Oh, next slide. So the curriculum, this is just a quick overview of the curriculum in sophomore years. So every year you're going to be taking these core studios with your cohort. That's about cohort building, interdisciplinary critique, and learning how to make bigger and bigger scoped projects. In your sophomore year, you do take an introduction to computation course, which is learning how to code. Usually it's in JavaScript, sometimes it's in Python, but it tends to be in languages that are then applicable to other languages. Our students who come out of Intro to Computation are then working in C# and Unity, or developing, jumping into different kinds of software. So it's really meant to be an introduction to computational thinking and ideas. Intro to Physical Computation is an introduction to electronics and Arduino, which is a really, really interesting, rigorous way of thinking in systems. And then there's a required seminar sophomore year, which is the Histories and Futures seminar, which looks at media theory, art, and design, historical precedents, and their interaction with computation. And in your sophomore year, you begin to explore electives. Your junior year, Core Studio, Materializing Code is a course about physical making, CNCing, laser cutting, 2D output, 3D output, and installation. It's basically starting to think of how you might start taking your projects off of the computer and materializing them in different ways. That still might be through projections or screen-based installations, but it could be through sculptures as well. And then finally, human-machine interactions is the kind of culminating course in the art and comp stack of courses. And it really helps you, that's sort of a end of junior year, starting to help you prepare your senior year, thinking about how the fundamental relationship we're exploring in all these courses is between humans and machines. And your own work might be about facilitating that interaction through interfaces or through different mediums. It might be about questioning that interaction. It might be just about developing your own interaction with computers for fine art applications, i.e. collaborating with computers. So that course is quite open, but it's there to help you really think about your own take on human-machine interactions. In the fall of junior year, there's also a critical issues seminar. The sophomore seminar is kind of about looking at the past, the histories, and where it might go. And then the critical issues seminar is framed more around contemporary critical issues in technology and helping you frame your work. And then in junior year, you start taking a lot more electives. By senior year, you're really honing your own direction. And I'll show a graph of possible directions soon. With a lot of electives, the final course studio, and then a 6-credit degree project in the spring semester of your senior year. Oh, next slide. So the Art and Computation program is built around a lot of flexibility. It's one of the programs at RISD that requires you to take the highest number of electives. You've got 4 additional electives to take as part of the program, in addition to the electives that you are already required to take, the non-major studio electives that all RISD students are required to take. So that's basically 8 electives to help shape the way in which you see computation interacting with other RISD programs or with other things that you want to specialize in. So we have students currently. We only have sophomores right now, so it's a brand new program, but we have some of our sophomores who are really interested in art science collaborations with Brown University, who are interested more in video games, who are interested maybe in sculpture, who are interested in printmaking and drawing. And so the electives are meant for you to kind of shape your curriculum a little bit. So it really is focused on computation. That's kind of our core language, but how computation intersects with other disciplines is something that's really interesting to us in the department. Next slide, please. So these are some of the elective pathways. These are the current focus areas. The focus areas are built around, currently we're built around faculty expertise, and these will evolve based on faculty expertise, student expertise, and student interest. But currently, so I will start up at the top. Currently, you might want to specialize in generative art, AI, scripting, these kinds of systems. We have a lot of students interested in world building and gaming and are developing faculty expertise around that. The sound courses all count as departmental electives, and we have a lot of faculty interested in sound and doing intensive work there. We have some faculty working on physical computing, which is electronics, maybe robotics. We don't have a robotics lab, but we do have faculty collaborating with Brown, and we will have a co-taught Brown University RISD course next year focusing on robotics. Digital imaging, scanning, digital photography, multiplex photography, all of these kinds of things might fall under digital imaging. And then, of course, web and networks. That might be sort of web design or interactive applications or telepresence, any kind of networked kind of applications. So again, those are our current sort of focus areas that you might choose to specialize in. Some might develop and some might disappear over time based on faculty and student interest. Next slide, please. This is a page from our website. I encourage you to go to aac.risd.edu, where you can find out about art and computation, and you can see some student work. Again, we're only in the first semester, so I thought it might make more sense to show you faculty work. In the few minutes I have left, let me show you some of the faculty work so that you can see some of the things that the faculty are making. This is Mattia Casalegno, who does VR experiences. This one in particular is for, it's a collaboration with a chef, and it's for a tasting menu. So you are seeing things in the VR space that are meant to echo what you're tasting in the real world. Next slide, please. This is Paola Gaetano Adi, who developed a kind of a post-colonial robot drone that was able to cross the Andes following a historical revolutionary path across the Andes. And so the artist recreated that journey with this autonomous robot that was built in large part with local collaboration. So kind of really interesting robotics artwork that involved people from across, North America, South America, and collaborators in Korea as well. So kind of global program to produce this artwork. Next slide, please. This is Daniel Lefcourt, who's principally a painter, although he worked in interaction design for a very long time as a painter as well. This is a painting where in a lot of his work, it's kind of hard to see, but he uses pen plotters and robots to kind of draw on top of paintings he might make. And typically there's a kind of computer vision analysis portion of the painting. So using all kinds of software or scripting or coding to do that, and then having machines draw back on top of his paintings. Next slide, please. This is something I worked on. You can go to the website pointcloud.garden. It's an artwork based on 3D scan data that I've worked on for quite a while. It exists as a website, it exists as standalone applications, and it exists here as an installation in a public park in Macau on transparent LED screens. Next slide, please. This is Tess Oldfield, who teaches with us now. This was actually her work as part of the DM thesis exhibition. She was a Digital Plus Media student here at RISD. And it's called Pitch Pipe Choir. It's a glass and sound and physical computation or electronics artwork that plays with mimicking the human voice in a kind of amazing, it's an amazing artwork to listen to. Next slide, please. This is a video game by one of our faculty, Victor Timofeev, who specializes in some of the game design classes. He has a drawing and game design practice, and he often crosses over one from the other. So I just included a slide to kind of show the faculty making, it's more of sort of like experimental indie game space. Next slide, please. And this is Leah Bieferman, who works a lot on digital imaging. So these are photographs that are composited. Leah collaborates a lot with biologists or natural scientists and tries to visualize her collaborations with scientists. She calls this a drawing practice, but it's a kind of digital drawing practice through photography. Next slide, please. So that gives you a kind of sense of the faculty teaching there. The faculty work is much more fine arts oriented than the program description might lead you to believe. The students are doing a lot of design work. Daniel Lefcourt and I have both taught in design fields. More importantly, I worked as a designer for quite a long time, building software and websites for people. So and Daniel Lefcourt has published a bunch of applications. That work tends to be not as public, but so there is expertise there in app and sort of building robust programmatic architectures that we try to help students with. But at any rate, we're trying to, just trying to show the kind of interdisciplinarity that we're going for in art and computation. Our students right now, it looks like, might develop their own art practices. A lot of our students are interested in design careers. A lot of our students want to go straight into the tech industry. And we're hoping students develop hybrid practices, maybe mixing tech industry with an art practice or a design career with the tech industry. So the same computational foundation supports a lot of it, but we're hoping that our students can carve out their own paths. Next slide. So this is it. I think this is my last slide. Why join now? It's kind of an interesting moment to join a new program. You're going to help shape it. We only have a class of sophomores right now. You'd be coming in with next year's sophomores and just having a class of juniors ahead of you. We're trying to be very responsive to what the students are doing. So you will help kind of guide the program as it develops. Um, a small program also means that you'll get to work closely with faculty, visiting artists, industry connections, and well, that's less important. Sorry, this slide is also for another presentation where if you're a major, you have direct access to classes, which might be obvious, but a lot of our students come to our presentations to find out about the concentration. And in the concentration, you don't have the same priority enrollment in classes as you would in the major. So that's why that's there. I think that's my last slide. I just want to say thanks very much, and I'll hand it over to Sean.
Okay, hi everybody. You can go ahead and go to the first slide. So the sound curriculum encompasses a range of fields, including the creative practice of sound-based work, the study of sound in built and natural environments, the science of auditory perception, sound design for fixed and interactive media, and the discourse surrounding audio culture. At RISD, sound is really a bridge across departments and areas of study. The curriculum is organized around three interconnected subfields, what we could call sonic arts, sound design, and sound studies. And the program emphasizes human-computer interaction and computational approaches to creating audio-centric work and to creating technical fluency with creative and critical inquiry. Next slide. So in terms of the learning outcomes, I'm just going to go through these. These are published on the risd.edu site, but it gives you kind of the scope of the program. So by the kind of end of the 3-year sequence here, graduates are able to design for human-computer interaction with an emphasis on auditory display, sound-based interaction, and new interfaces for musical expression. Construct and compose sound-based works using digital audio workstations, modular synthesizers, DIY electronics, custom software, and embedded programming platforms. Author code in audio programming languages for sound synthesis and signal processing to create custom instruments, interfaces, installations, compositions, performances, and sound art, and demonstrate critical listening and analysis skills for creative, technical, and social applications. Next slide. And then continuing, they're also able to situate sound-based artists, designers, and works within broader sociopolitical, historical, and cultural contexts, bridge sonic arts and sound design disciplines with other fields, and be able to conduct individual and collaborative research projects. And lastly, to engage with international platforms for sharing sound-based practice, research, scholarship through speaking, writing, and importantly, exhibition, performance, documentation, and other forums. Next slide. So the sound program, thinking about kind of career paths here, the sound program emphasizes emerging technologies and computational methods, preparing students to work with evolving tools, platforms, and systems. It encourages interdisciplinary collaboration and engagement across creative and technical fields. So graduates could enter a variety of fields, including software, gaming, different types of immersive media like XR, VR, film, media production, music, and performing arts. And they're prepared for various roles. So if you were to look kind of on a job board today and on sound audio jobs kinds of sites, you would see listings for like programmer, composer, artist, designer, engineer, producer, researcher. And then also the program will prepare students to be able to go on to graduate study or to start their own independent practice as sound artists and designers. Um, the curriculum develops advanced skills in areas such as spatial audio and embedded computing. These are kind of the big themes right now in the program. And these are areas that are really reshaping immersive media and transforming, how we listen, contemporary listening and performance experiences. Next slide. So here's a kind of a little shot of what we call the Studio for Research in Sound Technology. This is, or SIRST for short. It's a campus resource that provides facilities and equipment to support the sound major as well as other disciplines at the school. And really each year, approximately 200 students benefit from the courses hosted here and class visits and concentrated work of sound faculty. That wider population is very interdisciplinary, comprising majors from across RISD's undergraduate and graduate degree programs, and there's quite a bit of crossover with Brown University as well. Next slide. The Spatial Audio Studio here features a 25.4 sound system So there's 25 Genelec speakers and 4 subwoofers across this space to create a dome of speakers, which allows you to do very precise immersive audio. And this is a purpose-built room. We built this room from scratch, so it has a very low noise transmission in outside of the room. So it's a perfect listening environment. Um, and a variety of spatial audio techniques are supported, and 3D audio for a variety of different types of immersive media, including something called auralization for architectural acoustics. So you can use this room to simulate, how a room would sound or a building would sound before it's even built. Next slide. Additionally, this room has a dedicated seminar area, which can be flexibly configured and supports a lot of our presentations and workshops and guest speakers. Next slide. We also have a steady growing modular synthesizer. This is the Surge format synthesizer. This is very much like an analog computer. It has an origin in 1972, originally developed at CalArts. So we're continuing that kind of legacy of art and design students hanging out with the Surge. And this system is a mix of modern synth panels made by small scale manufacturers, and there's even a case of entirely student-built modules here. So that's one of the courses in the course sequence where students are learning about embedded computing, and they're able to design their own synthesizer panel. And then that panel is like kind of left behind for the next class of students that comes in, and they're actually able to use like instruments that were designed by the students that were in the year before them. Next slide. In December of 2024, we acquired this loudspeaker, the Eco 3D speaker made by a company called Sonable in Austria. We actually have the first one of these to arrive in North America. And this is it's a 20 channel like speaker ball basically, and it uses a technique called beamforming. It's basically a spatial audio PA system. So we take this out like kind of on the road to support concert events and to be able to share spatial audio work with larger audiences. Next slide. We also been kind of building our own systems that can be portable as well. So this is a 12-foot cube array here pictured at last winter, not this winter, at Tillinghast Place in Barrington, which is a great resource for RISD students. Yeah, so this is basically a 17 channel sound system. And it's currently set up in we're calling our Studio B, which is our kind of the secondary space for the sound program. Next slide. We've also been developing systems like this. This is a wave field synthesis system. I don't have time to get into how it works, but essentially it's a network of loudspeakers that allows you to create very realistic sound fields using a lot of tiny speakers. It's really great for installation experiences. And this was a research project that we worked on for a period of 4 years and continues. And we've actually published a paper on this system, which is all the plans and design is actually open source. But this is a new system that we're rolling out soon to support student projects. So students will be able to kind of check out this system and use it for different types of work. Next slide. And then toward the exploration of historical studio techniques, we have a bunch of analog audio equipment that we've been amassing to support one of our courses called Hands-on History of Electronic Music. Here you see 6 tube Hewlett-Packard signal generators, and behind there a couple TIAC quarter-inch magnetic tape machines. So we're really kind of invested in sound and technology, obviously, but not always looking at like the most emerging current technology, but also looking back to see what types of technology still has like kind of a purpose in today's landscape. So it's like mixing with contemporary means. Next slide. When we just set up a second sound studio classroom, this is a shot of the isolation booth in that room. We have a bunch of electronics and rapid prototyping equipment, inventory of checkout gear, microphones for a variety of immersive media. The Cube system is there as well. Here's what we're calling kind of the synthesizer lab right now, which is a sound isolation booth, but it has some great unique synthesizers. there. I should also mention we provide software licenses for our coursework. So this includes Max MSP, which is one of our main programming environments that students are using, and also Ableton Live. And sound majors would have these licenses throughout their time at RISD. And yeah, we're assembling more resources as we go. Next slide. So, we don't have time to play a lot of student works, being that it's time-based. So I'll just refer you to a couple sites where you can check out work by RISD students. Sometimes our classes put together albums of student work at the end of the semester. So we have some that are available on SoundCloud, and some that are also on Bandcamp. Next slide. A lot of student work gets featured in concerts that are usually at the end of the semester when a class concludes. Here is a shot from the class I teach called Programming Sound Performance Systems, where students are here using different types of sensors connected to custom software they've built for live performance. Next slide. And then along of these concerts featuring student work, last spring, students from the Hands-on History of Electronic Music course were invited to participate in the exhibition called Seesaw Soundwave at the Fall River Museum of Contemporary Art, which is about 30 minutes away from Providence. And they staged a live reconstruction of a really well-known historic work by Paulina Oliveros called 104 from 1966. And this was, I think, the third known realization of the work live. And we have a bit of footage from this. If you go to the next slide and hit play, I'll let that go. Um, yeah, so I also wanted to point out a article that was just put up on risd.edu in the news section about a new winter session course from this that just concluded just a few weeks ago called Sighted Sound Composition in Public Space. This is a course where we took this Eco 3D loudspeaker out around campus, kind of on a tour. Students created site-specific works across campus, exploring how acoustics, architecture, and social context influence perception and audience experience. Some of the sites included the RISD Museum. Here's the Grand Gallery. This was actually a concert open to the public where student work was played, and it was on the third Thursday of the month, which is free for the Providence community to come to the museum for free to check out the museum, but they were able to experience the student work. We also presented at the Fleet Library and RISD's various auditoriums. And there was a really successful final concert. So if you check out the risd.edu site in the news section, you can find the article on that. And then next slide. Faculty work. So in terms of faculty work, many of our faculty work in performance and installation, and develop their own software and electronic systems for this type of work. Here is featured Alex Cakeley, who is using an EEG brainwave system to influence his modular synthesis system. We have Michael Demps and his duo performing more sample-based work. Mark Satilia from one of his installations in the lower right-hand corner, and then also a system shot from one of my performances where the majority of the modules there are actually all programmed using this Max MSP language and exported to the hardware. Um, so rather than go into fine detail on those works, I'll just refer you to the sound.risd.edu site. There's a people section there. So please check out the people section on that site, and you'll be able to kind of find the links for all the faculty, as well as our teaching assistants and visiting researchers, the people that are kind of hanging out at the sound studio, and who the sound majors are interacting with. Next slide. And then lastly, I want to just kind of focus on another faculty work showcase, as well as student work and also external guests. So last April, we co-organized the Residual Noise 3-day festival at the Brown Arts Institute. And this event featured concerts and installations at multiple locations across both campuses with an emphasis on spatial audio works. And there's also a one-day symposium. Um, there was a concert, you'll see some footage soon from the concert at Washington Place Auditorium, which used kind of all of our systems, the Eco, the Wayfield synthesis system, and some surround sound array that's built in there. And then there were two concerts at the Lindemann Performing Arts Center. This is what's pictured here. This is actually Mark Satilia and his one of our faculty and his duo Mem1. And this spotlighted what's called the ambisonics cube formation of the main hall. Um, and we don't really see it in this picture, but there's actually it's basically an enlarged version of the RISD studio. So in the RISD studio, we have a 25 channel system in a dome. Here they have a 41 speaker system in a cube configuration. So we have a really nice working relationship with the Lindemann Performing Arts Center and the Brown Arts Institute, where work can travel between our studio and be presented at concerts up at Brown. We actually just had a faculty concert a couple weeks ago as well up there. So yeah, let's go to the next slide, and there's just a bit of video.
This together, I wanted to have events both here at Brown and then also at RISD.
At Rhode Island School of Design, Studio for Research in Sound and Technology. The primary techniques that we use in the space is called high-order ambisonics. One of the key things about residual noise is the social aspect of listening together. We debuted a new speaker system called an Eco from a company called Sonable in Austria, and we have the first one of these in North America. Essentially a ball of 20 speakers facing outwards towards the audience. A technique called beamforming feels like sound is coming from, behind you, above you, below you. You're not trying to give everybody the exact same experience. You're actually trying to create a sound field that has variety within it. And so if you were to get up and move around, you would actually experience that chain. So seating is optional, right? Okay, and that's the end of my presentation. Thanks, everybody.
Maren, would you mind taking this section? I'm so sorry. I had something come up on my end, if you wouldn't mind taking it. Not sure.
Yeah,
There
happy
she
to.
is.
Sorry about that. It
Thank
took
you.
me a moment to find my audio button over here. So yeah, I'll be happy to jump in here. So yeah, I just really very, very, very briefly wanted to touch on, transfer application requirements. I think many of you already know this, considering the previous webinars we've had about it, what we have on our website. But just wanted to quickly touch on what's required, the RISD transfer application, our own application, not the common app. Your portfolio, which we're going to touch on more in a moment, consists of 12 to 20 different examples of your best and most recent work, and work that is specific to the major that you're applying to. And I'll elaborate more on that momentarily. The personal statement is a part of the application, and really it's the same question for all transfer applicants. Why you're looking to transfer to RISD, and then the department that you're you're aiming for. I always encourage applicants to be specific in as specific as you can be in your essay. Really think about the application as, as on the whole, like we're looking to get to know you as well as we possibly can. So certainly, mostly we hope to learn the most about you in your portfolio, but also your essay is a great place for us to hopefully hear your voice and learn more about your intentions and your hopes for coming to RISD. The academic transcripts will be your high school transcript or equivalent, if it's a GED, that shows that you've graduated high school. It almost sounds unnecessary considering we're also going to need to see your current college transcripts, but it's good to have both. So your up-to-date college transcripts and, to be eligible to apply as a transfer, you would need to have or be working towards at least 24 college credits by June of the year you apply. So if you're currently a first-year student in your current college, great. As long as you, fulfill the rest of that first year, you're eligible to apply as a transfer for this coming summer or fall. I say summer because most of our transfers go through a condensed version of experimental and foundation studies our first year at RISD, so a summer EFS, and then they'll start in their major fall semester. At least one letter of recommendation, but up to three. I recommend having a college professor who's a studio art professor speak, at least write one of the letters just to speak to your your time in their classroom, and anyone really who can speak to your potential as a RISD student. If English is not your primary language, you will need to submit TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo, and those minimum score requirements are on our website. And I do want to highlight SAT or ACT, optional and truly, truly optional. Worry not about not including them if you choose not to. But just to speak more to the portfolio, again, anywhere in the range of 12 to 20 examples of work. And your strongest work, it really should be a good reflection of you as an artist and as an individual, and a reflection on the department that you're aiming for. We welcome variety in terms of discipline as well, though. So you don't have to be strictly only speaking to the major you're applying to. As you get a sense from today, like RISD is very interdisciplinary in general. So other disciplines are welcome, but it should be evident what department you're aiming for. We really hope to learn the most about you in your portfolio. So really your original ideas, your concepts, your point of view. It's helpful to have some foundation related work. But again, really think about the major that you're aiming for. And this is where I want to turn it over to Clement and to Sean to talk more about, let's see what slide I have next. Well, let's go back to this one. Talk more about your specifics. I guess what you would hope to see in a transfer portfolio, given that applicants might be very interested in art and computation and very interested in sound, but they're not quite sure how to showcase that in their portfolio, and also speaking also in terms of characteristics, maybe just getting a sense perhaps of a willingness to be open-ended and try and new things. So if you both wouldn't mind speaking to that, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, sure. Happy to. So for art and computation, we don't expect our first year students who are coming in as sophomores. So we don't expect our sophomores to have any prior knowledge. We just would expect you to have interest. I do think in terms of the portfolios, we're looking for students who are interested in systems, right? So systems can manifest in different ways, including in like painting, right? But it's setting up a working system and following through on that system. It might be a set of rules, it might be a set of patterns. But it's that kind of like rule-based systematic thinking that you're going to be doing a lot of in the department. So just showing us that you're comfortable with that rather than, for like a counterexample might be like a painting defined by a set of rules and sort of made systematically. The other end of the spectrum might be just a completely intuitive painting. We're looking for something probably in the middle. There's definitely room for intuition, but just thinking about that. The other thing I think we want to see a lot of is experimentation and variety. Don't just show your most polished pieces, show us a little bit of process. We don't need the whole process of like I did A, B, and C to justify your final work, but show that you have a process-based kind of experimental attitude, and that you're able to reflect on that a little bit. And breadth as well. You're going to be introduced to a lot in the program. You're going to be introduced to coding, programming, computation, physical computation, materializing systems, 3D printing, CNC routing. Just shows that you're comfortable tackling a lot of different mediums and thinking about them. I do think that's pretty universal to RISD, but I would reemphasize that that's what we're looking for. Thanks, Sean.
Yeah, so I mean, Clement summarized, I think, a lot of the things that I would also say about the Sound BFA program in terms of applying as a transfer. That kind of process-oriented approach, things that show us that you're interested in experimenting, right? Not always like think about the final product, let's say, but thinking about like the experience of making work and what and how you might be able to show that. I think some things that would be kind of natural fits for applying to the sound program, could be some video, some sound, some time-based media in your application, right? Not only still images, for instance. But that's not to say it has to be music by any means, right? If you have an interest in music, right, of course that would be an excellent thing to include in your portfolio. But the sound, the BFA program is broader than music, right? It's really sonic arts as a broader kind of set of practices, sound design as well. And these kind of take shape in a variety of ways. So, you know, um, sound design, it could be an interest in video games, right? And the sound side of video games or the sound side of like film, doing soundtracks, sound effects. There's a whole wide gamut of things that could kind of fit under the context of this sound area. So it's broad in on purpose. Um, yeah, but I do think some interest for folks that are interested in like a performance practice, performing arts, and looking for the kind of right home at RISD, where that can be like the focus. Like that would be sort of like a good reason to apply to the sound program and to try to whereas kind of fit in things that you might not immediately think like, oh, I'm applying to RISD. I have this whole interesting thing that I do, right? But maybe if you were applying to a different major, you wouldn't include that, right? I won't name any majors, but like, but you might guess, right? Like, oh, that doesn't seem like the kind of thing that would fit for an application for that particular major. Sound might be one of those majors actually where like the thing that you think might not fit actually is like the perfect thing to include.
Excellent. Wonderful. Well, we certainly have some time. Before I open it up to any more questions that anyone has entered in the chat, I do just want to thank everyone as well. And, just, let us, please feel free to reach out to admissions for any questions about the application. But if want to know more about these majors, reach out. But let me, okay, so let me see if there are any questions at all we can address that anyone has uh, entered in the chat. And let's see. And definitely, honestly, I see that we may have addressed so many questions that anyone didn't even imagine that they had. But please know that I want to be mindful of everyone's time, but if you have any questions at all, feel free to ask, and don't be shy, um, but also no pressure. Zach, would not to put you on the spot there or anything, but would you like, I would love to turn to you real quick if you don't mind. Um, considering your artistic background and your background with computation technology and culture when it was uh, um, a concentration only, would you mind speaking in just a little bit to how you discovered CTC and just kind of your thoughts, maybe?
Yeah, I discovered CTC completely on accident. So how it happened for me is very different from how it happens for most students. I came to RISD thinking I would never touch coding in a million years. It felt like a nightmare to me. And I loved getting away from computers as much as possible in my own practice. That's why I was a painting major at RISD. But as I went through the program, I first took a sound class with Sean, and I was a musician prior to attending university. And it was through those sound courses where I really started to realize how accessible computation could be, and I started to really find joy in the process of computational art, coding, seeing coding as a form of poetics in and of itself, and it really kind of pulled me in. I was someone who had interest in internet culture, technology, but it was really those courses that made it feel accessible for me where, oh yeah, I can learn how to code. It's not like I need to go through a CS program from beginning to end. It really felt much more accessible for me. And I ended up taking so many CTC classes that I had qualifications to add on a concentration by the very end. So it worked out perfectly for me. And now my current practice is even more rooted in technically more rooted in CTC than painting and printmaking. But I really use everything I learned at RISD. I was really thinking about my critiques from painting, technologies from computation and sound, and it really all came together for me.
Fantastic. We actually have a few questions that popped up, and I'll try to condense them considering, we have some time, but not a ton. Um, there's one question that is, um, well, you know what? I'm going to frankly say too, as many of the attendees here know, when it comes to transfer admission, it's also very much dependent on space availability in the major. So I'm also going to say what really, these are new majors, so I think there's an in one of the many advantages to these departments is there's, I would imagine a good amount of space for students who are interested in these majors. And considering that, Clement, I know you spoke to, and both you and Sean spoke to how interdisciplinary it is. So, for example, somebody who might have their sight set initially on something like industrial design, A, would it be possible to double major, or B, could there be room for somebody who initially was interested in ID in a major like this, either of these?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to answer that. The first of all, the double major question, it is possible to double major at RISD, but it requires 5 years. There's no way to do it in under 5 years. So that's just a note. And you would declare your second major at the end of your sophomore year. You can't declare it before. So that first year, you're in your major. And I tend to advise students to be really careful about double majoring. That fifth year is a lot of extra work, and you actually have to plan out all 4 remaining years by the end of that sophomore year. So you're pretty locked down. You don't have much flexibility, but it is a possibility. In terms of ID versus CTC, or art and computation. Sorry, it's a question that we do get a lot. And I will say the following. A lot of our grads who go on to Silicon Valley traditionally have come out of ID. That's because historically ID is a human-centered design department, which is really important. It's one of the really important skills that you gain to go into tech or human-computer interface design. I will say though that there are very few computation-based courses in the ID department, and also the ID department has no elective courses. So unfortunately, the ID department, their completion rate for the CTC concentration, for example, is about 25%. So about 25% of the 30 or 40 ID students who try and complete the CTC concentration actually complete it. And we've been trying to figure out why. We'd love for more of them to complete it, but it does seem to be that there are very few electives in outside. Once you're in the ID department, there's very few electives outside the ID department. So that is to kind of a word of warning, just to say ID makes perfect sense, but your chances of completing ID with a CTC concentration are pretty low. That said, I would suggest an opposite approach where you come to the art and computation department and learn everything about computation, and then try and find ways to complement the thing that we don't teach very, very well, which is the human-centered design. We're working on it, but right now that's not of interest to all of our students, so we might have some electives on it. But there might be ways that we're working for, paths forward, where students can go take ID electives from our department, which might be an easier leap. So there's kind of two paths through. Both have their pros and their cons. Ours is going to be much more interdisciplinary, much more kind of choose your own adventure. IDs is going to be very, very focused in a very rigorous human-centered design program, but it's going to be lacking in computation.
Thank you. Another question we got, and then we'll close it out because I do, again, want to be mindful of everyone's time. You did touch on portfolios. Um, you know, somebody who's maybe at the stage where they're really thinking about expanding their art practice, and when it comes to a portfolio, not only are they maybe perhaps new to either of these departments, but also just like putting together of really thinking about RISD in general. Any tips you might have, whether there's somebody who might be applying this coming fall or somebody who might be wanting to keep this like bookmark for the future? I know, we've touched on it already, but really just in general, when it comes to the portfolio, we can't talk about it enough. So would either of you have any insight to that again, or just someone really kind of beginning, wanting to consider RISD? Maybe particularly kind of coming from like a community college, um, even perhaps if it's just any more essentially words of wisdom, if you wouldn't mind.
I'll try. Let's see. So I think I don't know. I think I think I'm gonna touch like on something I talked about a little bit earlier of like kind of the there's maybe an impulse when putting together a portfolio to feel like everything needs to be like perfect, right? And like super well presented. Um, and sometimes that kind of feeling can get in the way of actually putting together the portfolio, right? Because it's sort of like a perfectionism, like that kind of like sets in about putting together something like this for an application. And and I think, uh, Clement and I both taught for many years in the experimental and foundation studies like first year program. So um, and in experimental is in there for a reason, right? It's like it's foundational, but it's also like kind of this um, uh, like kind of constantly kind of like this artistic inquiry where one is like trying to constantly like refine what their questions are as they're making the work. So I'd say like the ways in which one can show the intellectual engagement they have with the artistic process and show like something about the how that process unfolds is really valuable for people reviewing portfolios at RISD. Um, in this moment where we have generative AI, which can uh, create images that are very, very realistic. Uh, it's sometimes hard to know when one sees an image if like this was actually something how it was made, let's say, right? So I think in this moment, I'd say like portfolios that somehow indicate how something was made is really, really, really important.
Yeah.
You know,
Thank you so much.
yeah.
I really appreciate both of you. Zach, I appreciate you, of course. I appreciate everybody for being here. I think I'm deeply excited about, these two departments and what students are making, what they're going to be making in the future. Um, I do just also, before I say goodbye to everyone, I do want to plug. Zach put a lot of great links while the presentation was going on in the main chat. Also, we've put some links of recordings for our past webinars we've done about for transfers. This is being recorded, so you can, tune in again. And also tune in tomorrow if you're not already. We have RISD chats where current RISD transfer students will be talking to you about their experiences as transfer students and what they're doing here. So, and answer any questions you have there. So definitely check those out. Email us if you admissions@risd.edu if you have any questions. And I just want to say thank you all so very much. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day, night, week. Bye, everyone.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Bye.